Please give a warm welcome to Gavin Elliott.
Good evening. I did promise to be here dead on 7 o'clock, so somehow it just managed to happen. I was actually supposed to be here over half an hour ago, but I wasn't. So I'm Gavin Elliott. I'm the Head of Interaction and Service Design at DWP Digital. I will say mainly based out of Newcastle, but that's not true. We have 6 hubs now across the country in Newcastle, Leeds, Manchester, Blackpool, Sheffield and London. So I get to travel a lot around the various teams that we have. My design team is now probably about 35 people. And a lot of the stuff from this talk is built over the last 4 years of managing those teams and growing those teams into what they are today. So tonight I would like to talk to you about professional progression, what it means, how to do it, and most importantly, what outcomes you should be expecting moving forwards. We'll discuss experience and what that means in the design professions, personal and professional development, and the skills needed throughout your career. But as with everything, it starts with a short story. And my story goes back many, many years. I was told that I couldn't do and that I wouldn't do ever, and pretty much never. From a young age, I was told that I wasn't good enough, even from primary school upwards. From friends, family, which is a bit tough, teachers, possibly even worse, and people that I personally looked up to. I was just kind of told that I wasn't capable, that I would never actually get to where I wanted to be. But to know what happened next, I created a little bit of a working title. It's about proving people wrong. My English teacher, a lovely lady called Mrs. Hall, used to beat my knuckles in the days that you were allowed to do that. I don't know if it was ever allowed, but they just did it anyway. The same teacher told me that I wasn't good enough in English. She basically hit my knuckles because my handwriting wasn't good enough. How beating somebody's knuckles correlated with handwriting getting better is beyond me. She told me that I couldn't write English well enough. And then one day I actually went on to have a piece of poetry published in a book. My dad one day walked up to my bedroom at his house and said, "What are you doing, son?" And I said, "I'm writing some poetry." He was just like, "This sounds interesting." And he read it and said, "That's actually pretty good." And it was about homeless people. And without me knowing, my dad had taken that away and put it forward to be published into a book, and then showed me the response letter, of which it said, "Master Gavin Elliott," because it was back in the day that I was still a master, "your stuff's going to get published." And sure enough, it's in a book called Voices on the Wind, and you can buy it in all good bookstores somewhere. I don't know where. I've never even checked on Amazon, but allegedly it's in there. I was told enough that I wasn't good enough at maths. I possibly wasn't good enough at maths at one point, but after 6 or 7 weeks of remedial training, shortly before my GCSEs, I was put into the higher paper and actually passed. I was told that I would never be able to bring on sponsors for large events, and went to, if anybody knows me, went on to run some quite successful events in the northeast of England, and brought in the biggest amount of private money as sponsorship into those events. I was told that I wouldn't be able to start my own conference, and then went on to run one personally for 4 years very successfully, and I gave it up to get my life back, but it was good whilst it lasted. I was told that I couldn't really achieve that much, and I certainly couldn't take things on that might stress me out a little bit too much. So I went on to serve 3 years in the British Army, because that's what everybody does when they want to put themselves under extreme pressure. That was fun, and I achieved a lot whilst I was there, which I'm proud about. So yeah, prove people wrong. That's what I've kind of done throughout my entire life, which has led to me to be where I am today. But let's talk about the design industry, or we could talk about digital, to be quite honest. During the last 12 years of my career in the digital industries, I've been consistent in my professional progression with a few sharp left and right turns. I've learned a lot, not just about myself, but about how the industry works as a whole, or doesn't sometimes, where we tend to trip up and go wrong. And I think these are probably the 5 main factors of where those things happen. We don't do enough training, especially training with meaningful outcomes. Going to a conference to have some drinks with friends is not training. That is generally just called a piss-up. We don't learn anything. Well, we probably learn how much beer we can drink, but that is not the effect that we should be having at conferences. It might be great for networking with friends, but it's not great for learning. We should be identifying real training opportunities at those events. Granted, there might be drink involved at some point throughout that time that you're at the conference, but when you're at that conference, you should be trying to find valuable training. We generally don't have direction. We kind of get into this thing called digital, and we tend not to have a direction of where to go. Has anybody seen a career path at their current place of work? Put your hands up. Okay, so nobody's seen a career path. That's fine. Everybody should have a career path. Your organization should have one, your team should have one, and you should have one. This basically tells that person explicitly where they should be going throughout their career whilst they are in that current place of work, and guide them through it. It's not just about producing something in the direction that they should be going. It should be guiding them through what their achievements should be, what their objectives should be, and what their expectations should be. We're getting better, but there's still a big inability to mentor correctly. Does anybody in the room have a mentor? Okay, this talk should resonate with everybody. If not, which you all don't, why not? What's the issue with having a mentor? Do you think you can't find one? My team, up until just over a year ago, didn't have any mentors. And then I took it upon myself, because I already had one, to start a mentor program. So the mentor program now exists for every single permanent member of my team at DWP Digital, and all of those have been matched very selectively with their mentors. Reach out on Twitter, contact people out of the blue, drop them emails. It's easy. I have a mentor. I currently mentor one person, just because I could mentor two if at a push, but I want that time to be valuable with the mentee. So depending on where you are within your career, doesn't matter if you're a junior, if you've been in the industry for 20 years, you can still get a mentor. It's rare that mentoring is given any value, but it is valuable. So reach out, investigate it, find out what mentorship means and what you can get out of it by reaching out to somebody else. Different professions in digital, there are many. It's not just design, it's not just front-end development, it could be product ownership, it could be any of those digital professions that somebody can move from and to. Just because you start your career as a designer does not mean that you can end up as a product owner later down the line. I know a lot of brilliant product owners who've led from a design profession. I was once told 4 or 5 years ago that you can't become a product owner unless you come from an engineering background. And that was from somebody that works within a company in San Francisco. Now, it might be their way of doing things, but it's certainly not mine, and I believe people can cross over from one profession to another. We should be establishing these things as norms and the routes that you can go from one thing to another. I know quite a few people who even work at the Department for Work and Pensions that have come from an operational background, who have moved from that area into being a design. Well, one of my team members has come from an operational background and is now a fully fledged member of our design team. You can come from anywhere, but people generally need the thing to see in front of them for where they can go and what those qualities are that we're expecting. So, before we get to the practical bits of what we need to do for professional progression, let's have a bit of a dose of reality. You can write these down, you can take photos of them, you can remember them, you can share them on Twitter as if they are your own. Just please remember them and then use them. Life is not easy. Do not fall into the trap of feeling entitled that things are going to turn up on your lap and you'll just carry on through your career. You will not progress without putting effort in. Unbelievable. The word unbelievable makes me giggle. A lot of people say, God, that was unbelievable. That goal that striker scored on Saturday, that was unbelievable. Believe you me, that goal that he scored actually went in the back of the net. It's highly believable that it did happen. Nothing is unbelievable if it happened. Hard work is hard work. Hard work is not defined by time, but is defined about how smartly you can use your hours at your disposal. Everything is believable as long as it happens. The work. If you open the front door in the morning and you say to your loved ones, I'm off to work, there's a niggling thing in your head that's going, this isn't quite right. Granted, it pays money, but if you really enjoy what you're doing, it will become less about work and more about doing that thing that you enjoy doing. Be happy about the work that you're doing. Try not to classify work as a thing that you have to do. It's that thing that you should be enjoying to do. Been here before and did the talk on imposter syndrome. And this is the one thing that people often forget about, is putting yourself first. If you don't put yourself first before work, you've probably already lost. So remember, put yourself first. If your happiness is true, your work will speak for itself. The big one. There's even a sticker made about it. Hopefully this won't switch off. There's a sticker on my laptop about complaining is nothing without action. I can't remember when I came up with that saying, but my team hate me for it. Because if anybody comes up with a complaint, I'll just go, where's the action? What are you going to do about it? If you want to come to me with a complaint, you've got to be sure that you're going to do something about the complaining bit. Try and convert negative energy or negative thoughts into something positive. It's easy to dwell on something that might be negative in the thing that you do every day that pays the bills. If you flip it round, if you make it into a positive, that thing will disappear and you'll be able to move on with everything else. Complaining is nothing without action. Self-awareness. Another one from the imposter syndrome talk. Most people aren't self-aware. A lot of people might say that they are self-aware, and I'll call them a liar. Self-awareness is understanding your true self. What's deep in here and here. What is it that you want from your life? What is it that you want from your work? And what makes you happy? When was the last time you looked at your shortcomings? This all rolls into the professional progression thing. If you don't recognize your shortcomings, you'll never know what your strengths are. If you recognize your strengths, you can accentuate them and then use them as part of your personal and professional progression. Humans are terrible at recognizing shortcomings, especially in Britain. We have the old kind of cup of tea thing where everything will be fine, but we will never, ever, ever recognize our shortcomings because it's too hard to see. That might be a bit of a negative trait in me. I'm not sure what I want to do about it. Recognize those shortcomings, accentuate your strengths. Lean in, there's even a book about it. Really engage with the stuff that you're doing every single day. Enjoy it, embrace it, get involved, lean in. Actually give a damn and motivate yourself. So, whilst we've got that kind of dose of reality out of the way, experience. At the core of professional progression is experience, but being told that you need experience is about as much use as a pocket in a sock, because you're in that perpetuating cycle of somebody saying, I would like to do that, and then somebody comes along and says, you can only do that if you have the experience to do it. So you'll never actually end up doing it because you'll be in this rigmarole of going, you need that experience to do that next thing. Experience takes time. I've been in this industry now for 16 years, 17, how old am I? It's my birthday the other week, yeah, something like that, 16 years. It takes time. I've had many different roles. I've done many different jobs. Some were terrible, some were better, some were great. But all of my experiences took time. But how much time, Gavin? I gave this talk at Camp Digital a few months back, and even after the talk, people were coming up and asking about how much time it takes to progress. So, I have a theory. Gavin has lots of theories, by the way. That's why I've called this one Gavin's Theory. Over the years, I've put rough guesstimates around the time it should take for you to move throughout your career if you put the effort in, if you work hard, and if you lean in. Those things have to come together for Gavin's theory to work. And it looks a bit like this. Now, because it's a working theory, I'm happy to be challenged on it. I just have to let you know that I'm usually right. Okay? Those time frames rough guesstimate, to be quite honest. But that's generally the gist if somebody starts from scratch. So, in the top 2 tiers, both junior and midweight, by the way, sorry, I've used the word midweight. I know it's terrible. I don't know when in the digital professions we became professional boxers. That person that made that up needs hunted down and dealt with. Junior and midweight. The first 2 experience levels, both 1 to 2 and 3 to 5 years, should be focusing on 80% working on the delivery of the thing that they do on a day-to-day basis, and 20% on personal and professional progression during their working week. That 20%, it doesn't mean that 4 days are going to be spent on that thing that they do, and 20% in the Friday, for instance, being spent on personal and professional progression. They can be mixed, but remember that we need time for personal and professional progression. 80% of those 2 top areas should be spent on doing the thing that they do day to day to build that experience up. In the senior levels, 6 to 9 years, the third experience level should be focused on 70% of delivery of that thing that they do day to day, 20% on personal and professional development, and 10% on community building. Those are things like support for recruitment. They could be mentoring somebody else, somebody from within the company, but 10% of that senior person's time should be spent on trying to develop the community within the place where you work. If you don't have one, use it for the mentorship. Help somebody else get a start. The fourth experience level, that lead level, should be 80% on leadership and community building. This is where the shift happens, and 20% on personal and professional progression. So that lead role is looking at things like quality. It's looking at bringing the community together. It's leading in the right direction, pulling the pieces of work together. It's all of those types of traits and characteristics. But remember, you'll see a pattern. 20% is still spent on personal and professional progression. That fifth level, in the director level, should be spent on 80% on strategy and leadership and 20% on personal and professional progression. It's still in there. It's just different. Again, director levels, 80% on strategy and leadership. Strategy of the company, strategy of the work that you're doing, perhaps. I realize that in agency world, it's very, very different to the work that we do in government. But what kind of skills do you need? Granted, as well as experience, as in time, you also need to gain skills. These aren't like becoming 100% proficient in Envision. So help me God if I say Envision down as a core skill on a CV again, because I might actually flip. That's not design, it's a tool. If you can design, you can draw on a piece of paper. Envision is just a tool. It's like the people that say that they're 50% proficient in something else on the CV with little bars that move across. So the next section of the talk will focus specifically on everything that you need to progress. Again, take notes, photos, and use them as if they were your own. These are things that you should be using as core skills in the work that you do. They're things that I've learned to try and do throughout my time. Number one, listen more than you speak. You realize that you may not have all the answers and knowledge to take something from A to B, but the people around you, and the team around you do. You're willing to listen to those, understand their thoughts, feedback, rationalize, and move towards a preferred outcome. You speak when needed and present information when required with purpose and thought, not before. If you're starting those earlier experience levels, this one generally doesn't happen. This is something that I found that I have to mentor into those more junior roles. Sometimes it happens further up the line as well, and you've got to kind of have a quiet word with people, but listen more than you speak. Visualizing a path to success. You have the foresight to see the route to a successful outcome. Yes, things might get in your way and things will test you, but overall, you're able to see what the end game is and be able to articulate that so everybody around you knows it. If you're working in a wider team, if you're working with clients, it's helping them understand. You have the answers. If someone has a question, you have an answer. Everything is clear in your head. You know if there are challenges, when and where they're likely to be. You know that, You know, taking a couple of left and right turns might be quicker than going from X, Y, and Z. You know what's going on because you care so much about the product or service or thing that you're designing. And if you don't have the answers, you tell somebody. You say, I don't have the answer to that question right now, but I'll go away and find out. It's easy to have a little less integrity and just try and make something else up on the spot. Remember, you're not here to have all of the answers. A lot of the work that we do is with user research. We'll find it out eventually. Just remember, you can have an answer, but it doesn't have to be the actual real answer. So now I've just touched on integrity. You're honest about what can be achieved, and or you'll find out what could be possibly achieved in the future. If you don't think something is possible, you don't say it is and then try and run away and get it sorted. You're open. You hold your hands up to say, that might not be possible, but we'll try and work towards something else. But you make sure that you have integrity always. Clear hindsight. If you've worked through a piece of work, you can look back at it and know the things that might have been causing you challenges. You can easily see which things you've learned from and how you can do them differently in the future, how you can get to that better outcome. And with that, you can do the other bit. You can future think. You're always thinking about the future and what needs to be done. You're always thinking about the future, about what could be done whilst working on the thing at hand. And you're not messing up one or the other. You're working clever. You don't screw things up now, which will then have a knock-on effect to something else. You never give up. It's easy to give up, but we don't. You live and breathe that product or service or piece of design that you're working on. You care about it incessantly, and you are clever enough to realize where something isn't going to work, and you can quickly adjust to get to a better outcome again. Just don't give up. It's easy to give up. Lead from the front. This is one of the things that I tend to hear from or see in interviews. So I've been interviewing today, I was interviewing yesterday, and it was for senior roles. People forget that it doesn't matter what level you are, you can always lead from the front. I've seen some of the most fantastic associate or junior designers lead from the front in a team of a much higher experience level because they're self-inclined to do so. You're unshakable, or the perception is that you're unshakable. If something bad happens, you don't panic. You know to react in a calculated and calm fashion. You're the person that everybody else would want in your trench. You're not going to get shot if they're around. You have the trust. You can have that can-do attitude that the other members of the team want. You're not scared to share your opinion. You carry conviction in what you want to share. You know how to deliver it in a manner that will be respected and understood. Simply blurting something out never gets respected. Hold on, articulate your thoughts, and then deliver the message in a way that somebody else might understand. You like to actively take control. You do the job above you. I have a saying whereby you're always interviewing for your next job every single day because of this. Everybody around you knows that you're exhibiting certain characteristics where you can actively take control or you can lead from the front. By leading, you get the right stuff done. You've calculated it in your own head and you're making good progress. Does everybody know what a PITA is and it's not a PITA bread? Pain in the ass. You can be a pain in the ass. It's a bit of an oxymoron, but you can be a good pain in the ass. Everything that you do is for the good of the people around you and the good of the product or the thing that you're working on. Most pains in the asses cause havoc. They're a poison within a team, but a good pain in the ass will control something in a way you may not agree with, but will generally deliver it in the best possible manner. They assert a level of control unlike Zeus himself. You can be a good pain in the ass. You've just got to measure it correctly. You're good. Everybody understands that you're good. You kind of know that you're good as well. But you don't have to say, I'm the best one on the team, let me take all of the things. You just know deep down the way that you're doing things could probably be the best outcome when you work with other people to be just as good as what you think you are. Good people take you to where you need to be in the best time frame, whether it be agency world where things are time boxed, or in the likes of in government where we work through sprints. If you're good, people will help you through. Who does one-to-ones with their managers or peers? Few, good. You should be holding regular one-to-ones with your managers or leaders. You actively get involved in things like mid-year and end-of-year reviews. Does anybody do end-of-year reviews or mid-year reviews? Good. You look forward to working towards them. You look forward to getting in that one-to-one arena. You want to see, is there anything that I can work on? These are the things that I've tried to do since that last meeting. What else can I go towards? What can I do next? I believe I've now got this experience level. Where do I go? You push yourself every single step of the way to having a happy attitude towards one-to-ones and reviews. I do talk about it in the imposter syndrome one as well. At a time where you do reviews, we can do peer reviews and we can ask people around us how we've done in the past 2-3 months. There's a way to go about it where you don't just get this fluffy banter back and people say, oh, you're the most amazing person in the world. That's not really constructive. You want that kind of more negative, or at least feedback that's hard to hear. If you struggle with that, I've written a blog post on how to get that type of feedback. I'll send it out later on. Is anybody here with their boss? Good. Because this one gets really awkward in conferences where the boss is actually there. Practice your interview skills. Every day you're interviewing for your next job, whether it's in the same company or organisation or whatever else, or elsewhere. If you don't practice your interview skills, you might be 8 years deep into a place of work, and then all of a sudden you think, I would like to go for that other role. And believe you me, if you don't have interview skills, it'll show. The amount of interviewing that I've done over the past kind of year to 18 months, and I've had people from within really large organisations who've been time served for 8 to 12 years, have walked into an interview with myself, and some of my junior members of the team have shown them up because they simply haven't practiced their interview skills. It doesn't even matter if you want the job or not. It could be for a barber's or a chip shop. Go into an interview and just practice being in front of somebody and trying to sell your skills. It's kind of fun if you go into it a bit, and it builds confidence as well. I think one of the other things where if you want to go for an interview, you naturally just get nervous. I think a little bit of nervous is fine, but being able to manage the shakes and the sweats when you're sat on the other end of a table it's good practice. So practice those interview skills even if you don't want another job. Get a mentor, going back to the beginning. If you don't have a mentor, get one. Write out to as many people as you possibly can that you value in the industry or you think that you can learn something from. Just say, will you be my mentor? And then go from there. If you're looking for advice on setting up a mentor program wherever you are, again, I've written a blog post about that, so I can either drop you a DM with the link or I'll share it out later on. Deliver. Just deliver something. Focus on that thing, focus on the outcome. The delivery of design or anything to do with digital is the thing that's most meaningful. It's the thing that finally touches somebody at the end, whether it's an end user, whether it's somebody within the business, anything. No one wants to work on something that just doesn't end up getting anywhere. So either you might be working on something on an agency which actually doesn't end up going live, which does happen. You could be working on digital services in government, and believe you me, there's quite a few of those that don't actually end up going somewhere. But everybody just wants delivery of something. So either it's going to be something in your own time, it's something going to help the business, it's going to help something internally, or it's going to touch end users. Have intention. You absolutely have to have an intention in what you want to do and document your intent. I sit down every 3 to 4 months with my notebook and put my intent down. It could be intent to grow the services and design community within DWP. My intent could be liaise more with other members of the design community inside of government. It could be grow the team by 30% and think about a strategy of how that's going to happen. Last November, the design team inside of DWP was 11 people, and now it's 35, and we're still hiring. This isn't a pitch, but we are hiring soon. That type of intent of wanting to do that, once it's documented and once it's down, you can kind of follow it a lot better, and you realise it's there, and you realise that it's something that you need to do. A wise man once said to me, just keep going. It was over a really bad cup of coffee from one of our machines in the office. And he just said, keep going. And then hashtagged it, and then it became a thing. And then he got his own little avatar in Slack with keep going on it as well. And at first I thought, oh, it's so frustrating when he does that. And it's somebody that I really look up to. It's my ex-boss, Ben Holiday. And we still have it in Slack. It's never moved, it's still there. We still do, you know, call on, KG, call on, and then it comes up. I still say to the team who are struggling, keep going, keep going, keep going. You'll get to somewhere, you'll get to somewhere. So don't forget, just keep going. Things do get tough, things do get hard, but just continue. Celebrate your successes. It's easy to forget about them, especially if you're moving quickly. Remember, every day you're interviewing for your next job. Make the most of it. Enjoy it. Embrace it. Thank you. My DMs are open on Twitter. Realise that I've put in my notes, email for anything else. Didn't put my email address on there, did I? Clever Gav. Contact me on Twitter is probably the best way. Sometimes my inbox gets so busy that it gets a bit crazy and then I just don't respond to people. If you want to talk about movement in government, whether it's our lovely colleagues at HMRC or ourselves at DWP, I know Department for Education are hiring down in Darlington now, so there's a lot of movement within government in those design and digital professions, doesn't matter what you are or which profession that you come from. But what I hope that you do take away from this is a little bit of onus on the qualities that are expected to progress. And remember to take care of yourselves, because it comes from you first, and then the work will take care of itself. Thank you very much.
Anyone got any quick questions? No? Right, cool.
Thank you very much.